All right, so classifying and identifying polynomials. Classifying and identifying, or identifying and classifying. So these two ideas of identify and classify are really low-level Bloom's taxonomy questions, right? They're really easy. They tend to be yes or no, or like name it type of problems, right? You just look at it. It doesn't take a lot of thinking. Bada bing, bada boom, we're done. So there are two ways to identify or classify polynomials. The first way is by the number of terms it has. And terms should tickle it in the back of your brain, because we've talked a lot about terms in pre-algebra and in algebra. Like terms. Like terms. Question number 3 on our bell work, where you put things together that are like terms. They have exactly the same variable. So classifying a polynomial by terms is how many pieces or sections there are in the problem. If there's only one term, meaning like 3x, and that's it, that's called a monomial. Mono, the prefix mono means one. So if there's only one term, it's a monomial. If there are two terms, so x plus 4, there are two terms, correct? There's x and there's plus 4, positive 4. That has two terms, so it's called a binomial, because the prefix bi means 2. If there are 3 terms, 10x plus 4y plus 84z. They're 3 separate things. There are 3 of them. That's called a trinomial, because the prefix tri means 3. And then they got lazy. And they decided, all right, forget it. Anything that has 4 or more, we're going to call it a polynomial, because the prefix poly means many. Now here's the kind of hard part that you have to like be okay with. A monomial is always a monomial. Mono means one, it's by itself, you're done. We in this class will call a binomial, a trinomial, and polynomial. However, you have to be okay with the fact that poly means what? Many. So sometimes they will call a binomial a polynomial, because 2 is more than 1. And sometimes they will call a trinomial a polynomial, because it's more than 1. We will be specific and call them binomials, trinomials, and then polynomials. However, directions or an assignment that we do may say something about polynomials, and you're like, excuse me, this only has 2 terms. They go together. They're synonymous for each other, right? Synonyms. Here's my last piece of advice. When you are classifying according to anything, remember, every polynomial, every problem that you write must be in standard form. Do you remember what standard form is?
Yeah. When x and y. Oh yeah. X and y are on the same side? Yeah.
X and y are on the same, so the variables are all on the same side. But what is about the variables? They're in order.
Oh, I was right. Whoa.
And they're in order by exponent. So the biggest exponent comes first, then the next exponent, then the next exponent, then the next exponent, right? Exponents have to go in order from greatest to least.
It does?
It does. Okay, so that's terms. Now let's talk about the second way of describing them, which is degree.
Is mine just not doing it for you?
But it was a weird term. Yay! Thank you.
Or just make everything green.
All right, so then we talk about it in terms of degrees. And there are two branches of degrees. Either you're going to classify it by degree because it's a monomial, mono meaning one, or you're going to look at the problem and be like, no, it's a polynomial, meaning it has more than one, and we're going to use this way. So you have to be able to identify the number of terms in order to identify the degree. If it's a monomial, meaning it's all by itself, if it's a monomial, meaning it is all by itself, it's just one little term by itself, it is the sum, what does that mean?
Addition.
You're going to add the sum of the exponents that belong to the variables. The sum of the exponents that belong to the variables. If it's a number by itself, I don't care. I only care about the exponents attached to variables. Okay? Variables are what matter. If it's just a number, forget about it. Doesn't work. Only the exponents that belong to the variables. So, for example, this guy right here, negative 2a to the fourth, b to the fourth. That's one term, correct? It belongs together. I cannot separate it. It's one term. It's a monomial. What's the degree of that monomial?
4 or 8.
4 or 8. I hear those.
4?
What is the definition?
Oh, no, 8.
8. Why?
Oh,
Add them together.
The sum of the exponents that belong to the variables. I've got an exponent of 4. I've got an exponent of 4. 4 plus 4 equals?
8.
But they're different variables.
They're different variables, but that doesn't matter. It's in the same
Oh
term.
my gosh, you're throwing away everything that we just learned.
Oh,
The degree of this is 8. We're not combining anything. We're not making it simplified. We cannot, you're right, you cannot do a to the fourth times b to the fourth because they're different bases. But the term, since it's a monomial, the degree is to the 8th degree. Look at this one. What's this degree?
0.
Why 0? There's no variable. So this is 0. What about this guy?
1.
Because there is an exponent of 1. So this is the first degree.
So what if it's like 8 to the third?
8 to the third?
Yeah.
Is there a variable?
Oh, so it'd just be 0?
It'd be 0.
So it doesn't matter.
only the variables.
It only matters if there are variables.
Okay.
All right, so what if there's a math problem, like down here? Bloop, right? If there's a polynomial, there's more than one term. And I got a little short on my copy. So if it's a polynomial, we treat each term like a monomial. What's the highest one? So if it's a trinomial, there are 3 pieces. You look at each piece of that trinomial and you say, which one has the highest degree? That's the degree I'm going to go with. If it's a 8-term polynomial, you look at each one and you say, which one is the biggest degree? That's what I'm going to call this.
So for number 1, it's like 5. 5, yeah.
And then this is why I gave you this already written out, because you just, it's not called the 0 degree. It's not called the first degree. If it's a 0 degree, that thing is called a constant.
Oh, there's names?
Yeah,
If it's to the first degree, it's called linear. If it's to the second degree, it's called quadratic. Third degree is called cubic. Fourth degree is called quartic. Quart meaning 4.
Like, quad means 4, because 4 quarters.
So does quart. 4 quarters.
So then why is 2
I know.
quadratic?
That's a good question. 5 is called quintic. And then they decided that's enough. 6 and higher is 6th degree, 7th degree, and so on.
Maybe it's quadratic because when it's an exponent of 2, it's the square.
Oh.
No.
See, I feel like
No.
people that like made math words were just like, we don't have a Q.
I mean, they really thought about your Scrabble playing in order to help you out.
Yes, actually they did.
All right, so here we go. Let's practice.
They're like, I have this Q.
3 problems.
I'm good.
Yeah.
First thing that I drew those beautiful stars next to on your notes. Make sure it's in standard form. Is this written in standard form?
No.
No, let's fix it.
Okay.
What goes first?
G5.
What?
7G5.
Thank you. 7g to the 5th.
Oh, we keep the exponent?
What else?
And then it's. So you just rearrange them.
Plus 24g to the 3rd. Good.
And then K.
What next?
Minus.
Minus, because that minus sign belongs to the g squared. Then plus 10. Perfect. Now let's classify the 7g to the 5th plus 24g to the 3rd minus g squared plus 10. What are the two names? What? Give me the degree.
The 5th degree.
5th degree, which is called
The quintic.
quintic, and how many terms? Polynomial. It's a quintic polynomial. Bada bing, bada boom.
Why don't you add the 3 and the 2?
Because they're in different terms.
So you just count the 5.
What?
You just say quintic
No.
polynomial?
But I thought
Or
you
actually,
said-
yeah, because it's
Yeah.
quintic. And because the highest is a 5.
Because you added 3 and the 2 on the other one.
Because they were in the same term. The 3 and the 2 are in different terms. This is one term. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they cannot go together.
So if they're multiplying, then you add. Multiplying or dividing. But if you're adding or subtracting, then you don't. You add
Correct.
them all.
If they're in the same term, meaning they're being multiplied by each other, you would add them together to figure out the degree. Next one, number 2. Is it in standard form?
No.
What goes first?
Negative 3y.
Good. Negative 3y to the 7th. Then what?
8y.
Plus, because it's positive.
Yeah.
All right, let's classify it. Degree and terms.
No.
7th degree.
Wait, aren't you adding the other y?
Nope.
But it's a negative. So
Oh, yeah.
subtract.
7th degree binomial. Because we are only looking, because it's 2 terms, we have to pick which one is bigger. And the 7 is bigger than the other one, which is a 1. But they do not get added together because they are not in the same term. They're in 2 different terms.
So number 3 would it be 2?
All right, so good question. Jordan says in number 3, would it be 2? Where did you get 2 from, Jordan?
There's X and Y.
Because there's x and y in the same one. And since x and y are in the same term, we add them together. If I was going to write this in standard form, I'd put 8xy minus 4y plus 7. Because I'm putting them in order by degree of each term.
So if it's got the same y value, then you just do it with the bigger.
Like if this said 8x minus 4y plus 7. Is that what you're asking?
Well, like let's say there's like 8x or 8x squared and 8x.
Uh-huh.
Or no, 8x
Squared and then 8xy.
2x squared.
Uh-huh.
So would the 8 go first because it's bigger?
You'd actually put them together because they'd be like terms.
Whoa.
Oh, so you just do like 8x
Mhm.
I don't.
to the third?
Is it?
You're saying if you had 8x squared
Yeah.
plus 2x squared, would 8x squared go first? Is
Yeah.
that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I'm telling you that that's really 10x squared.
Okay.
It's
so
a
they
monomial.
got the same. I get that.
It's because they have like terms. They have
They're
the
like
same
terms.
variable, they have the same exponent.
So it's really this.
So without the x on the third one, you would just do, it would just be 4y plus 7?
Yes.
Okay.
What is this? Degree and term.
Quadratic?
It's a- Wait a second.
Quadratic because it's 2.
We should rename that.
1 plus 1 is 2. Quadratic. Trinomial.
Can we
Oh,
rename
so if
it?
it's got the
It was all
same.
like bimatic or something.
No.
Or, yeah,
Wait, so it says 8xy, so they're both is 1.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because they're in the same term.
Or just like 2 of them.
Yeah, 2 to the second degree.
All right. Glue this on the next page.
Alright, who wants to see Thomas? I made the wrap way better. Or I got, it's not better, I just made a wrap. You wanna see my wrap?
It's not better. I just made a rap and that would be the same.
When we start the next unit, it has to be in standard form. So we're practicing it now.
Actually, I just made a rap.
I'm getting too hot right now. Wow, I think I might burn up. I don't know if you still chain. I don't know if you're paying to get to this place.
Hey,
I'm so hot.
stop wrapping and gluing. Start gluing.
You can look
How
at
to
that.
stop wrapping?
I don't
As
think
in
so.
like wrapping
You should do a
paper
math
and
wrap.
start gluing?
George, go home. George, go home.
Bro, she'd gladly go.
All right, here we go.
I was glad.
Adding and subtracting, we're going to do 2 examples, and then you're going to start your homework. All right, so adding and subtracting polynomials. Again, this is not something new, because all it is combining like terms. Why I wrote it up there. Combine like terms. What you have to remember, though, is that like terms have exactly the same variable. It's not enough that they both have x's, or they both have b's. They have to be exactly the same. If it's b to the 5th, the only other thing that can combine with it is b to the 5th. If it's y to the 3rd, the only other thing that can go with it is another y to the 3rd.
What does it mean if there's like the parentheses on it?
So what this means, this problem, this adding, we are taking a binomial and we are adding it to a trinomial. That's why they're in the parentheses, meaning that this is the first
But you still just put them in order.
plus
like
the
you
second.
normally
Yep,
would.
and we're going to combine them, and our answer is going to be completely different and random, and sometimes we start with a binomial plus a binomial, and our answer is a polynomial. Like, you just combine like terms. So, the other part is that our solutions must be in standard form, meaning exponents in order greatest to least. So, what is my largest exponent? To the 5th. I've got 4b to the 5th, and what combines with it? 3b to the 5th. And you guys, addition problems are super easy because all you have to do is just straight up combine like terms, add it all up. What's 4b to the 5th plus 3b to the 5th? 7b to the 5th. Remember, when you're combining like terms, your exponents stay the same. We are so used to multiplying powers that we have to retrain our brain that combining like terms, it stays, only the coefficient changes. What comes next?
14.
Positive 8b plus positive, right? 6b. 8b's plus 6b's is 14b's. 14b. And then last but not least, minus 8. And we're done. I mean, we have just added polynomials. Good. If you were going to, you don't have to unless it tells you, right? But if we were going to classify this, this would be a quintic, 5th degree, trinomial, 3 terms. Right? It's combining like terms. We've done this before. Subtracting is the one that's going to screw you up. Subtracting is the one that's going to mess you up. Subtracting says distribute. Subtracting is the one that's going to mess us up. Because that minus sign between my two polynomials, that minus sign right here belongs to everything.
Even if it's like a positive thing?
Even if it's like a positive.
Yeah, it would be negative.
So you have to distribute. This minus sign belongs to everything behind it, meaning it's all going to change. It gets distributed to everything. Now I'm going to tell you this. Get over it.
Wait till everything
I think it's easier, especially as you're beginning. Maybe by the end of our practice today, you won't have to do it. But I'm telling you right now, in the beginning, rewriting the problem won't kill you.
I'm already dead, so.
3x squared minus 2x plus 8. My first trinomial did not change. But after this minus sign, everything else changes. It becomes minus 10x minus 4 plus 8x squared.
And then you just combine like terms?
Now, after we distributed, we made that minus sign belong to everything in that second polynomial, trinomial if we're going to be specific, right? Now I can just combine like terms. What goes first? The x squared. 3x squared. What?
Plus.
No, you said minus.
Plus.
No,
I-
you, but,
Minus plus minus.
We changed it.
but I thought that you said that, it's okay,
We
whatever.
changed it.
Did you rewrite the problem?
Yes, I rewrote it.
Did you write it the right way?
It's already negative.
We distribute this minus to this minus 8x squared. What's minus
okay.
minus
I
8x
was
squared
just
is
writing what
plus?
you were writing. Okay, never mind.
What is 3x squared plus 8x squared?
11x squared.
11x squared. Then what comes next?
Negative 2x minus 10x.
Negative 2x minus 10x. Negative 2x minus 10x is
Negative 12x.
negative 12x. And 8 minus 4 is
Negative 4.
what? Positive 4.
Oh.
And so this is a.
And that's our answer.
So this